We all look up to great people, but what if there's a hidden cost, a darker side to all that ambition? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and explore the shadow that greatness can cast.
I mean, think about it. What does it really take to be great? We're always celebrating these incredible leaders, these brilliant minds, these visionaries, right? We put them on a pedestal. But is that the whole story?
Because here's the thing. Every tall object casts a shadow. And the taller something stands, the longer and darker that shadow can be. And that right there, that's the core idea we're going to dig into today. All right, Section 1, Greatness and its Shadow, Claiming Height while Casting Harm Below. So let's really get into this. Of course, we respect greatness, but ancient wisdom, like you find in the Bhagavad Gita, it asks a really tough question. What happens when your pursuit of greatness actually hurts other people? When one person's brilliant light ends up creating a whole lot of darkness for someone else.
And this leads us to a fundamental, almost universal rule. The higher you climb, the more power or moral authority you claim for yourself, the greater your responsibility is to answer for the impact you have. The key takeaway here is that greatness isn't a get-out-of-jail-free card for accountability. Actually, it's the exact opposite. It demands more of it.
Okay, so how does this actually work? How does someone who genuinely thinks they're doing great things end up causing so much harm? Let's get into the mechanics of how this shadow really forms.
It really boils down to a three-step process. Step 1 is self-elevation. This is that inflated self-image, where someone starts seeing themselves as above it all, morally superior. The Gita has a word for the root of this, ahankara, which is basically ego. This leads to step 2, shadow formation. This is where all the messy, unacknowledged consequences of their actions get pushed onto other people. And that brings us to step 3, karmic transfer. This is where the innocent, the employees, the family members, the followers, they're the ones who end up absorbing all the real-world suffering.
So, just to be absolutely clear, when we use this term, the shadow, what are we really talking about? Well, it's all those unacknowledged consequences. It's the suffering that gets displaced, the burdens that get pushed down the chain of command, and it's the real-world impact that lands on innocent people.
Now, this might sound a little abstract, but trust me, it's not just a theory. This dynamic is playing out all around us, every single day. So let's look at 4 case studies to see exactly how this shadow shows up in the real world.
First up, case study 1, the responsible parent. We're going to start right at home with a dynamic that I think a lot of us might recognize. The parent who always positions themselves as the ultimate authority, the one who just knows best.
So this parent, they justify every decision on these high moral grounds, always saying they're doing what's best for the family. But what happens when those big decisions lead to, say, financial trouble or a ton of emotional stress? Well, it's the dependents, the kids, the spouse, who end up absorbing all of that instability. The responsible parent gets to keep their self-image intact, all while refusing to even look at where the consequences are actually falling.
Okay, let's move on. Case study 2, the visionary leader. Now we're scaling this up a bit, into the world of work or even politics. This kind of leader loves to use a big, noble story. We're doing all this for the greater good, and they use it like a shield. So when their big, bold decisions lead to real harm, like people losing their jobs or teams being under incredible stress, it just gets brushed off as collateral damage. It's sad, but it's necessary. And if you dare to criticize, oh, that's not seen as valid feedback. No, you're just an opponent to the grand vision. And just like that, their heroic self-concept stays perfectly safe.
All right, next up, case study 3, the benevolent institution. Because it's not just individuals, right? This shadow can be cast by entire organizations.
So you might have an institution that claims it's totally neutral, or maybe even progressive, but its policies are actually causing systemic harm. They might be trapping people in cycles of poverty, or just stripping them of their dignity. This is like a form of collective ahankara, or collective ego. And the really insidious part? No single person takes ownership for the harm. So nobody's ever held accountable. The suffering is very real, but the responsibility for it is completely invisible.
And for our final case study, we're looking at what the source material calls one of the most dangerous examples of all, the enlightened teacher. In this situation, someone's spiritual status is used as the ultimate shield to avoid any and all criticism. If followers get hurt by the teacher's actions, and we're talking emotionally, financially, you name it, it's never seen as the teacher's fault. Oh no, it gets reframed. It becomes a test of your faith or a sign of your lack of spiritual progress. It's an incredible move, really.
Moral responsibility gets completely swapped out for an untouchable spiritual identity.
So wow, if that's the problem, what on earth is the solution? Well, this is where the Bhagavad Gita offers some really powerful, timeless principles that are basically a direct antidote to this whole mess.
The first big idea comes from this verse, Nimitta matram bhava savyasachin. It translates to be merely an instrument. It's this powerful call for profound humility. In the story, the great warrior Arjuna is told to see himself not as the one in charge, the ultimate author of events, but simply as an instrument for a purpose much bigger than himself.
And why does this matter so much? Because what it's saying is that true ethical action is humble. It doesn't shout from the rooftops to claim credit for all the good stuff while secretly sweeping the bad stuff under the rug. It forces us to see that we're part of a much bigger picture, and that means taking responsibility for the entire impact, not just the highlight reel.
And the second key idea redefines what leadership is even for. This verse says, Loka sangraham evapi, sampashyan kartum arhasi. It means action must be performed for the welfare of the world. The purpose of action, especially for a leader, is loka sangraha. It's about holding the world together, about the well-being of everyone. At its core, leadership is about protection.
And this right here really gets to the heart of it all. True greatness isn't measured by how high you climb or how much power you grab. It's measured by who you protect. It's all about absorbing responsibility yourself instead of offloading your burdens onto other people.
Which brings us to the big takeaway here. It's about carrying your own weight. It's about restoring a sense of karmic balance by actually owning the full consequences of your choices. So when you put it all together, you see two totally different models. On one side, you've got the shadow model. It starts with self-elevation, which leads to displaced suffering. It's all about using a good story to justify burdening other people. But then, on the other side, you have the Gita model. That one starts with self-scrutiny, which leads to real accountability. It's where power is used to protect, and that right there is the difference between posturing and genuine greatness.
So let's end with this one final thought. To stand tall while refusing to see the shadow below is not strength, it is blindness. I mean, standing tall, claiming greatness, of course that's appealing. But if you achieve that height only by refusing to look down, by refusing to see the shadow you're casting on everyone below you, well, that's not strength at all. It's just a really profound and, honestly, a very dangerous kind of blindness. And that is definitely something to think about.